Good morning, everybody. Julie Hafen here from Trendy Pilots. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about bidding for your schedule at the airlines. So bidding at the airlines is something that happens, at least both airlines that I've worked for, the regional and the major, it was something that happened every month. From what I know, most airlines do a monthly bid. So you're just bidding for, the 30 days or whatever at a time. There will be a specific window when you have to bid. It's not like you have 30 days to bid. Typically, you have like 1 week to put your bid in, and then there's usually maybe like another week after that where the bid takes time to be processed before it's actually put on your schedule for the following month. And bidding is based on a few things. So obviously it's going to be based on your seniority on the aircraft, in the base, and the position. So what I mean by that is if you're, for example, I'm based in Salt Lake City, so that's one of the factors of like where my seniority is going to fall. I'm a first officer on the 220. So bidding is done in those little categories for every base, every airplane, every seat position, if that makes sense. When you're bidding, there's two types of things you're bidding for. It's either going to be a reserve or a line holder where you have an actual schedule. Some people who can hold a line will purposefully bid for a reserve, and some people who typically can only really hold reserve because they're not senior enough, sometimes we'll still bid for a line just in case, because you never really know how the bid is going to play out, like how everything is going to fall together. So when you bid, this is what I remember someone telling me when I was a pilot at SkyWest. They were like, every month when you bid, no matter how senior or how junior you are, you're gonna bid like you're a freaking rock star. Bid for everything that it is that you want, at least in the first priority, and then as you go down the line, then you can be less specific. But first off, what I'm gonna talk about is how bidding worked when I was at SkyWest Airlines. It was a little bit easier than how bidding works at the current company that I work for. I liked it a lot better because there was still a lot of flexibility in it, but it wasn't so intense. The bidding system had, I think it was 7 layers. You would bid for either a reserve or a line holder. And when you bid for reserve, it had the whole reserve line for the entire month laid out for you. So the days off and the days on call were all laid out. And then it had either like a 4 a.m. call out. There was a later one, maybe at 10 a.m. or at noon. And then there was a third one that was a 12-hour call out. It had all of your days on and all of your days off, and you just basically bid for a line for the whole month. You didn't get to like pick and choose exactly which days you wanted off and exactly which days you wanted to work. So say that you were gonna actually bid for a line there was, I believe, 7 layers. And so when I talk about bidding like a rock star, in that very first layer of the schedule that I wanted for the following month, I would put everything in there that I absolutely wanted. All the specific trips that I wanted, the days off that I wanted. I was pretty senior when I finally started bidding for a line, like I was bidding number 5 in the base. So I would actually go through all of the pairings or all of the trips that were available and see which ones I wanted to actually bid for. So the company will submit like all of the pairings, the trips that are available. It'll be like a whole document. Sometimes, depending on the month and what airplane you're on, obviously, sometimes it's going to be 5 pages long. It could be like 20 to 30 pages long of all the trips that are available. I would print off this sheet and I would go through and actually prioritize which trips I wanted to fly. So in the very first layer, I would design my dream schedule. Like, I want this trip, this 2-day followed by this 2-day. I want this local. And I would actually put in the specific trips. And then I would even put in I only want to work between this and this many hours, because I've never been one of those pilots that wants to work like the maximum 100 hours a month. No, that's too much for me. My sweet spot's like 75-ish, somewhere around there amount of hours. So I would build my dream schedule in layer 1 of this bidding. And then in layer 2, it was kind of like, okay, well, if I can't have all that, here's some other trips. Here's some other pairings that I would also like. Okay, and if you can't give me those, then I would move to layer 3. Then I'll just take these trips. And then layer 4, and I'll take these trips. By the time it got to the last couple layers, I wasn't specific that much at all. I would just put in, okay, give me these days off. If you can't give me any of that, give me these days off, or give me just these days. And then by the last layer, it'd be like the 1 or 2 days that I absolutely had to have off. Because basically what the system would do is it would go to the first layer and award as much as it could, trying to get you to the minimum guarantee or the amount of hours that you needed to have that month. It would start with the first layer, give as much as you can, and then if it still needs to get more, it'll go to layer 2. And if it still needs to give you more flying, it'll go to layer 3, 4, etc., all the way down the list. So when you're bidding, you want to be very specific in the first layers and then pretty generic in the last layers. Otherwise, if the system gets to the end of your bid and it hasn't been able to finish it, it can do whatever it wants at that point. The system could throw on any trip at that point on any day, like all bets are off. So when you get to the last layers, just make sure you're not like super specific. That's my tip on that. Now, bidding at the company I work for now is a little bit different. Reserve, for example, if I'm going to bid to be on reserve, I can actually just bid for the specific days off that I want. Or you could even bid for, I want weekends off, or I want a cadence, like I want 4 days on, 3 days off, that sort of a thing. But it's nice because the whole line isn't just laid out for you. You get to pick and choose which days you want to be on call and which days you want to not be on call. You can see my little puppy back there. She had to be with me. Anyway, so that's super nice. And then for a line holder, if I'm gonna actually bid for a line, then it's very similar to what I would do before, but the system is so much bigger. Like I think you can put, I don't even know, it's probably 99 layers. I don't ever put more than a few, but you can get really, really specific and then continue to get less and less and less and less and less specific. But you know, at SkyWest, it was like 7 layers. Here, it's a lot more. But what I typically do is if I, for example, say that I want to be a line holder 1 month, I want to actually have a schedule. In my layer 1, which I can have like 99 layers in this one layer, I will bid for the things that I want. Like I'll bid like a rock star in that first layer. I want these days off. I want 2-day trips. I want 3-day trips. I want them to show in the morning because I don't like staying up very late. So I just put in all of these parameters that I want. And then, you know, in this first layer, you can put in a whole bunch of different parameters. Then I say, if you can't give me all of that, then I'll take reserve. And if you're gonna give me reserve, I want these days off. And then sometimes I'll even put one more layer where it's like, if you can't give me all these days off on reserve, like if it's a month where I really need those days off, then I might put in another layer for a line holder or a reserve where I'm just being a lot more generic. One thing I would recommend when you do start bidding at an airline, because it's very confusing at the beginning, they typically have a hotline or like a help support, someone that you can call to just make sure that your bid is in the system properly, because every company does it so differently and there's so many rules. And if you screw something up, somebody junior to you could get something that you actually wanted and that you were senior enough to hold, and that's kind of frustrating. So what I recommend doing is after you put your bid in, then call the helpline and have them look at your bid. Just say, this is what I'm trying to put in there. Does this look correct? Is that what I want to do? I did that at both companies. And so now, you know, once you kind of figure out how the bidding works for you, then you can just continue to do that every month. I will say, I know here at the company I work for now, because the bidding is so much more intense and there's so much more involved with the bidding process, that some people actually pay others to put the bid in for them because they're so freaked out about like screwing it up and not getting, you know, what it is that they actually want when they're senior enough to hold it. So they'll have other people who are bidding experts put the bid in for them and they pay them, which is crazy. I've obviously never done that. So I think I've covered the majority of what bidding entails. You know, it's based on your seniority in the base, in the aircraft, in the position, the seat position that you fly. It is something that's done every single month. Every company is going to have probably a different bidding system that they use. So you do need to learn how to bid. And once you do start bidding, again, you bid like you're a rock star in the first layer. And then as it goes down the line, you slowly start being less and less picky about what you're going to get. So I think that's it. If you guys have any more questions about bidding and how it works, please let me know. You can email me, trendypilots@gmail.com, or you can just put a comment below this YouTube video, or you're welcome to DM me on Instagram as well. Love you guys. Happy flying until next time.